This is Mac OS Ken.
Looking forward to and back on the year that was. It is Monday, the 27th of December, 2021. I'm Ken Ray, and this is a special edition of Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by SimpliSafe. Get 40% off your new home security system at simplysafe.com/macosken. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macosken. It is that time of year, counting down to the new one and recapping the old, reflecting on the good, the bad, and this week, the imaginary. The Silicon Valley Mac Users Group was kind enough to ask me to present at their last meeting of this year. Talking it over with them, we decided a fun topic would be the Apple News Year in Review. Now, if you want to talk business and stuff like that, I'm good to go. If you want to talk the ins and outs of hardware, I am not good to go. Thankfully, the MacCast's Adam Christianson is. So, we got to zoom into the Silicon Valley Mac User Group meeting last week and talk over the year that was 2021. This week, I would like to share that with you. Divided up, of course. Today, the expectations we had headed into 2021, and unfortunately, we do have to talk about the dreaded disease. Thought it would be fun, actually, to start with a couple of guys that I like. Piper Jaffray, former Piper Jaffray analyst Gene Munster. He's now the principal of Loop Ventures. And TF International analyst Ming-Chi Kuo. Both had these things that were in the very first Mac OS Ken of 2021, where they made predictions for 2021, which it turns out was an impossible year about which to make predictions. And yet they sort of did okay. So let's go through some of Gene Munster's really quickly. He said that Apple would benefit from the accelerating digital transformation. His whole thing was our dependency on tech is accelerated because of the pandemic, but while the velocity of this adoption may ease post-pandemic. Were we ever so young? Sorry. Well, it might,
we're almost there.
I know, right? Yeah, and then again. Our view is that much of the change is sustainable moving forward, is what he said. I mean, and what he's talking about is absolutely right. Even when people started to go back to work in the middle of the summer, there were still a lot of offices that were like, yeah, we're done with the whole coming back to work thing. There were lots of people that went hybrid as well, lots of places that went hybrid. So obviously Apple's hardware is going to keep being cherry as far as the work from home crew. He said that we should expect fiscal year 2022 street estimates to inch higher. This is absolutely happening right now. People are raising their price targets as high as $210 in some cases. 5G to initiate multi-year iPhone upgrade cycle. Can I ask you a question, Adam?
Yeah.
Would you know the difference between an upgrade cycle for iPhone at this point? Because it seems like
it's hard to tell. I mean, it used to be the solid every 2 years because we had the
right.
S phones, but now we don't. So it gets much more confusing and muddled.
Right. Especially because now you've got people holding onto their phones for so long. Who is it? It's Wedbush analyst Daniel Ives says, generally speaking, there's anywhere between 250 million and 300 million iPhones that are ripe for upgrade. And they're only a billion, but I mean, it's a billion divided by 3 is like 333 million, right?
Right.
So you're constantly in a place where 1/3 of your audience is ready for more. And so how you can say this is kicked in the upgrade cycle, or, it's a year that ends in a number. Munster also predicted new business segments. He was thinking specifically about hardware and services as a subscription bundle, which we haven't gotten to yet, but I feel like things like Business Essentials from Apple. There was another program they just introduced a couple of weeks ago, I think, that had that same feeling. The other new business segment that he was talking about was either the car or transportation. He was not saying that either of those things were going to happen in 2021. He was, however, saying that Wall Street was going to start paying attention to those things, which is what we talked about a minute ago, with Wall Street sort of anticipating a better 2022. You also had Morgan Stanley analyst Katie Huberty issue a note. She's basically saying, yeah, okay, everything that Apple is already doing is great, but we need to start thinking about the stuff that Apple is going to do, because there are things that we know they're going to do, even though we don't know it, but we all do. And, pay no attention to the actual Apple television. Everybody can't be right all the time. As far as CF International analyst Ming-Chi Kuo, his hardware predictions included the long-awaited AirTags item trackers, which Adam is going to talk about more in depth in a bit, an unspecified augmented reality device, which, he was wrong about the year. But as I said earlier, it was easy to be wrong about 2021. We'll talk more about the AR thing in a bit, because that somehow, despite the fact that it doesn't exist, is one of the biggest stories of 2021, I think. He also said new AirPods, some more Apple Silicon Macs, which Adam is going to talk about that in a bit, and Apple's first mini LED displays throughout the year. So that's the kind of thing that we were looking for this year. What's funny is the only mention in any of that about COVID is when we're done with it. And it's kind of a bummer that we have to talk about it, but that's, I personally think, one of the biggest stories for Apple of 2022. Oh, wait, hold on past me. We'll talk Apple in the time of coronavirus in a moment, but first, a word from SimpliSafe, the right way to protect your home. The stockings are emptied, the presents unwrapped, but it is still the holiday season, and you still have a chance to take advantage of SimpliSafe's holiday deals. 40% off their award-winning home security. If you're looking to secure your home, SimpliSafe is great because it has everything you need. Indoor and outdoor cameras, comprehensive sensors, all of it monitored around the clock by trained professionals who send help the moment you need it. Now, while they do have everything you need, you may not need everything they have. And that's fine. You can choose from one of SimpliSafe's ready-made packages, or you can build your own custom system, choosing just the elements you need. And installation is super simple. I had my sensors, base station, and keypad up and running in under an hour. Take advantage of SimpliSafe's holiday deals and get 40% off your new home security system by visiting simplisafecom/macOSKen. SIMPLI. Again, that's simplisafecom/macOSKen for 40% off your entire system. Right. We've looked at the year that we were expecting. Now let's get the ugliest Apple story of the year out of the way. I say ugly. It feels to me, and I want to ask you again as well, Adam,
Sure.
They're like nailing the pre-recorded presentation at this point. Like I know there are people who, would fly out and would be invited, and they're all happy to see each other, and they're all happy to be in the room. And they're all happy to go and, touch the thing as soon as it's all over. The thing being the product that they announce, not, like a Blarney Stone in Cupertino or something. I never want to go back to that. I love the pre-recorded presentations because you get all of the information. It just zips along. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your thought on it?
And the efficiency. Well, personally, I was never invited before anyway. So
Yeah, me neither.
You and I, we're always virtual. But yeah, no, I feel like it's much more polished. We get a lot more of the information, a lot more directly. And God, Apple does a really good job of it. Mm-hmm. It's just a shame that they built an entire theater dedicated to Steve Jobs and it hasn't seen much use. Yeah, I do hope they get back to that. Like I do. I think what we might see is a mix at some point in the future. Like a little bit of pre-done and a little bit of in person. I do hope we get back to that someday because we all know like connecting physically and directly is much better than the virtual stuff at the end of the day.
Well, social distancing since 2008 is, what I say. But so then talk to me about Wwdc, because that's kind of the same thing. I mean, on the one hand, and I know there is nothing like being in the halls. I mean, I know, I'm not a developer. I know there's nothing like being in the halls with all those people and running into somebody and overhearing somebody and talking about that. At the same time, what did you have? Like 5,000 people at most could go to WWDC, and now it's however many millions, have an account and want to sit down and watch.
Right. I mean, there you go. There's a good example of a hybrid model that seems to work well, right? I mean, maybe not everybody's totally thrilled with it if you want to actually be there, but
yeah,
I think it proves the theory that it can work.
As far as the work from home thing, and Apple and COVID, they seem to have done fairly well with that. I know there are lots of people who are upset about coming back in. I have a friend who works for Apple Retail, and I don't think he has seen the inside of a retail store in quite a while. The work he does, he is actually mostly doing from home, although I think around the time of the iPhone launch, he did have to go back in for a bit. Apple's actually opened several new stores throughout this year. I had the good fortune of being able to actually get my picture taken with Tim Cook at the Tower Theater location in LA, which was it's a beautiful location, which I don't intend to go to again anytime soon. They also opened a new store in the Grove, which I got to go to, it's amazing, like how different the stores are. I mean, there are so many things that are exactly the same, but those two stores architecturally couldn't be any more different. When I heard that they'd opened one, if you don't know what the Grove is, it's basically an outdoor mall. And it's like, okay, great. It's another mall Apple store. And it's honestly, if it wins an award next year for its architecture, I won't be surprised, because it feels like, it doesn't feel like you're in a mall. It doesn't feel like you're in Southern California. I don't know what it feels like, but kind of incredible. So that they've been able to keep doing that. The big story probably is Apple's ability to execute in these weird times, especially when you have the supply chain issues, especially when you have the chip shortages and things like that. And in thinking about that for tonight, the thing that I thought about was actually something that happened in 2005. Apple in 2005, when I was first doing Apple News for Inside Mac, locked up 3 years of Flash. And at the time, all they were using Flash for was, I believe, the iPod Shuffle and maybe the iPod Nano. Why did they need 3 years of Flash? It didn't make any sense to me. And I kept walking around and bugging people I knew who were interested in Apple and saying, why are they locking up 3 years of Flash? Well, it turns out they were locking up, yeah, they were locking up 3 years of Flash for the iPhone, it turns out, because the iPhone launched in 2007, and doing a 3-year deal for Flash in 2005 got them through 2008. So that got them through the iPhone 3G. They were making deals for a thing that we didn't even know existed. And Flash, I don't know if anybody remembers, but at the time it was back and forth where it was not available. It was too expensive. People who make it would glut the market with it. And then suddenly they were practically giving it away in breakfast cereal. So executing in weird times is a thing that Apple knows how to do. But there's nothing as weird as what's going on now as far as supply chain and stuff. It's really great that Apple can throw its weight around. I mean, I say throw its weight around like it's bad. I mean, they are the biggest customer on the planet. When the biggest customer on the planet comes and says, hey, I'm going to need more of this, if you've got more of that, you're probably going to give it to them. And if the second biggest customer says, hey, that was mine, I mean, it's, kind of a drag, and I'm kind of sorry. The question is, can Apple keep executing? Not because is something going to go wrong with Apple, but eventually you run out of finite material. So are the chip shortages going to come back around to a place where it's not hurting what Apple is trying to put out? It's interesting that Apple chose to, we think, Apple chose to throw the iPad under the bus for this holiday season. They actually said on the last earnings call, on the fourth quarter earnings call for fiscal year 2021, that all of their products were going to do great except for iPad. iPad was going to lose sales. Numbers were going to go down on iPad because they weren't going to have enough to go around. And it seemed kind of weird that they could know that, except then they were just like, we're going to have all the iPhones you're ever going to need. We're going to have all the Macs you're ever going to need. We're sacrificing. They did not say that they were sacrificing iPad for that. It's just iPad is the one thing where they know they're going to fall. And conjecture is that the reason that's falling is because they've sacrificed components and who knows, maybe even work capacity to keep making iPhones. Or is there something else coming? There are some people who say we're going to get an AR announcement in spring. TF International analyst Ming-Chi Kuo actually says that we're not going to get that now until the fall or maybe even the winter. But Apple locked up 3 years of Flash a year and a half before they needed as much Flash as they locked up. Are we sacrificing iPad for iPhone? Or is that the kind of deal that Apple would have gone ahead and made in, March or June, knowing what September and December were going to be like? And did iPad get sacrificed for something else? That's just wild conjecture. But yeah, that's kind of the COVID thing. It started off being about COVID. It's hard to keep it all, apart. At the same time, though, I mentioned Apple has done an amazing job of executing on hardware, which, I know nothing about. Thank God Adam Christianson is here. Tomorrow, it is a MacCast-driven show. Adam Christianson will hit the transition to the M1 for the Mac, as well as its introduction to the iPad line. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by SimpliSafe. Get 40% off your new home security system at simplysafe.com/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. info@macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that will do this special edition of macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.